This is how my one-on-one client manifested a full-fledged relationship with his specific person. This story will have it all. It will have something for you if you are a guy who's manifesting a woman. It will have something for you if you are a woman who is manifesting a guy in her life but can actually see that the guy is slightly unavailable or emotionally closed off. Now, before I start this video, I would just like to say that in no way, shape, or form will I be giving justifications for anyone's behavior, but I will be explaining it. And a lot of times, understanding the behavior also helps you navigate what you should do when this behavior shows up. So, I will explain things from both point of views. I will explain things from the guy's point of view, and I will explain things from the girl's point of view. So, the guy in this situation is my client. He was the one who came to me. When I get a lot of comments, people say that you don't post male success stories a lot. So here is one for you. Now, a big reason why I don't post male success stories is not because I don't have as many. It's a lot of times because to get success stories from men, to explain their success stories to me, is sometimes slightly time consuming. That's all. So when I have a lot of success stories, right? And when someone gets a success, I first have them explain the story to me a little bit more on what exactly worked for them, what didn't, so that I can share it here. But men sometimes take a little bit more time than women. That's all the reason that I post lesser success stories. So let's talk about the success story a little bit more. So when this guy came to me, this is what his story was, and I will first explain a little bit more about his past, what happened to him, what was his mindset, and this is all that he explained to me. So for this video, let's call him X. So X told me, when he came to me, he mentioned that he grew up in a part of a family where his father was a very dominant figure. He also saw that his father was the main decision maker of the family. He was the one who decided how everything went. He was the one who decided how the finances went, how the meals went, where to go on vacations, and everything. And he saw that his mother was somewhere struggling because of it. He also saw that his father was taking a slightly more dominant role, which wasn't also healthy to a certain degree, and his mom never raised his voice. And as he was growing up, two things happened with him. First thing that happened is he determined to himself that this is not the person that I want to be. I don't want to be a person who's going to grow up in this manner, and I don't want to treat women that way. But another thing that he learned was that to a certain degree, being masculine is not correct. Because in his mind, masculinity is connected to being extra dominant and possessive. So, because masculinity is connected to these things, in his mind, he's not going to allow himself to be masculine because he's constantly afraid that if I'm masculine, it means I'm treating someone wrong. If I'm masculine, it means I'm not being loyal to my partner. If I'm being masculine, it means that I'm, physically dominant over my partner, which are things that he didn't want as a part of his life. So as he grew up, even though he was a masculine person in itself, he confused masculinity with toxic masculinity, and which forced him to be very submissive in nature. Now, when I say submissive in nature, there is nothing wrong with being submissive, but if it's not your true nature and if it's ridden by fear, that is where it becomes an issue. In fact, even if you're dominant because of fear, which I believe his father was to a certain degree, because he had some fears from his childhood, it made him feel in control, it made him feel powerful, whatever the reason is. No matter what comes out of fear, it's not really helpful. So even if your dominant behavior is coming out of fear, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's helping you grow. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's helping you become the person that you want to be, right? So we have to also assess and check where our fears come from and what are our desires and our natures that come from them. So this guy, as he grew up in this household, and this is what he developed. Now, eventually, what this led to is that as he got into relationships with women, he was constantly insecure, number one, because he was not himself, and he was constantly insecure that women will leave him, right? And a big reason why that was the case is because he thought, I'm not like my father, and my mom stayed. So if I'm not like my father and my mom is staying with my father, only dominant men who are slightly toxic towards women will get women to stay. Now, this can be true to some extent, but this will not be true for healthy relationships, right? But this is what he had understood, and because of which, because he was constantly very timid in relationships, he was constantly insecure in relationships, he was constantly settling because he was afraid that the women will leave me and he also has to please them. He constantly had situations where the women did leave him, and this reinforced his belief that women only like dominant men. Eventually, he met his specific person. Now, by this time, when he met this girl, he had already started to work on himself a little bit. He had started to understand his patterns. He was working with a therapist before me, and he had started to understand what were his patterns, how did he come to realizing these things, and how did he act in these situations. But his beliefs, he was still blindsided with them. So he met this woman and he had a relationship with her. Now this is how the relationship went. At the start of this relationship, wherever guy got any insecurity, he used to project it onto this girl. And a big reason why he liked this girl is because this girl used to reinforce his beliefs, and she used to tell him that, you know what, you're fine, I'm not going to leave you. This is called enabling. Now I will explain the concept of enabling once. I have done that in my previous videos, but I think that this video demands me to explain it again. So enabling basically means if I have an insecurity and this is something that I have to work on myself, but I project it onto my partner, and instead of actually supporting me and telling me to deal with it myself, my partner deals with it for me. Eventually, I will be enabled. I will start to think that this is something my partner will do for the rest of my life. And my partner cannot do that for me. And because my partner cannot do that for me, after a certain point of time, one day my partner will realize that, oh, I don't want to enable this behavior. Because my partner in their mind were not doing it because they thought it would be a constant thing. They were just reassuring me because somewhere they thought that I will eventually take that responsibility and deal with it myself. But when I won't, my partner at some point will not be able to take it, and that is why a lot of breakups happen. You must have seen at least one breakup where the guy after the breakup changes or the girl after the breakup changes. It's because eventually, after the breakup happens, they realize that, oh, there is no one to enable me anymore. There is no one to tell me that this behavior is okay. And the world is not as forgiving as my partner was. So I will need to take responsibility of my behavior here. Now, this is what happened from this guy's point of view. Now, the girl in his life was also constantly enabling him. She was also constantly telling him that, you know, this behavior is fine. And he was starting to get very possessive because he was not very sure in his masculinity. He was not very confident in his own skin. He constantly used to project his insecurities onto her. She also used to reassure him consistently, but also used to keep up with it. So if he used to say that, you know, I don't want you to wear these clothes, she used to accept it and she used to say, okay, I won't, even if it was her choice on what she wants to wear. So things like these kept on happening after a certain point of time, and eventually she lost, and these are his words, not mine. She lost faith in my ability to change. Hence, she finally decided to break up with me. These are the words that this guy used eventually, and this is what happened in his situation. Now, 2 months after that, he had tried all chasing, all running after her, all pretending to say that I have changed when he wasn't changing at all. And that is when we started working together. So, the first thing that we worked on was forgiveness. This guy blamed himself a lot. And he didn't just blame himself for what is happening in his current situation, he was also blaming himself for his father being the way that he was. And he was also blaming himself for not being able to protect his mother. This is something I have seen in men a lot, that they constantly blame themselves for something that their parents do, especially the father figure, because they feel that if I was as powerful as I am right now, physically or mentally, I would have been able to protect my mom. This is what his constant mindset was. Now, the first thing that we worked on was forgiveness. So I gave him a forgiveness meditation, and in constant instances, he used to come up with things that he wanted to forgive himself for. And then we started to form specific affirmations for that. We started to work on his forgiveness, and eventually, as he started to feel lighter and lighter and lighter, two, three things happened. The first thing happened is that he constantly was before people pleasing because he thought he had to make up for his father's mistakes. And this was not just happening in terms of women, this was constant in terms of friendships, in terms of job and everything. So this helped him in all areas of his life. He stopped people pleasing because he had nothing to make up for. But the second thing that happened is he was finally able to differentiate that, you know, I was not at fault here. I couldn't have saved my mom even if I tried. I was 5 years old. I was 6 years old. I was 7 years old. That kid was a victim. That kid was not the culprit. Accepting that is liberating because when something bad happens to us, especially some sort of pain that we experience at a younger age in our life, we blame ourselves for it. We think that if we would have been different, this would have been this way, this would have been that way, maybe circumstances would have changed. That is not necessarily true. And this is what he was struggling through and struggling with for a long time. After forgiveness, we understood what masculinity means to him. Now, this is not something I can define for you because masculinity is a very specific topic, right? And it can be very specific person to person. What we worked on though is we started decreasing the definitions of things that were not masculine. So for him, if let's say controlling a woman, just for an example, in this situation it was not a masculine trait for him, but he had convinced himself that it is because of fear. So we started decreasing these things, we started working on that. One thing that you will see is that as a guy, a lot of times when you're being avoidant and when you're being possessive, it's not really because you want to be. It is because that is the only way that you think you will get love, and that is the only way you think you will get respect. A lot of women come to me and they tell me that, oh, I'm manifesting this guy, but he's constantly unavailable. And in some situations, the guy is. But, and again, I'm not justifying someone's behavior, I'm just explaining it. But when I go deep, it is also very easily recognizable that the guys in these relationships are never feeling appreciated from their woman at all. So, this is a common thing, right? Let's say you want the guy's behavior to be 10 out of 10, right? And this is for also women who are manifesting a relationship with a guy, and the guy is right now at 0. Now 0 is not him being toxically treating you bad or him being abusive. 0 is he's just not giving you the proper attention that you need, but he wants to try. The trying wouldn't instantly look like 10. It would usually look like 2, 3, 4. But this is going to be under the confines of a commitment. So don't say that, if he's calling me once just out of the blue and he tells me that he wants to be together and then he ghosts me, that means something. This means, let's say the guy has started to commit to me, which is the least that you deserve, right? Women, this is the least that you deserve. After you get that commitment, after that there are some behaviors that you might want him to work on. Let's say it can be him being emotionally available, him communicating better, him expressing his needs, him acknowledging your needs. Now the behavior might not go from 0 to 10 instantly, it might go from 0 to 5. But because the guy is not feeling appreciated when he goes to 5, he will not even try for that 5. So a lot of times when they will do that 5, they are looking for some appreciation, because in their minds they have jumped 5 places from where they were. But in your mind you are thinking that unless it's a 10, I don't want it. And that can sometimes set an unrealistic standard for them. So in that situation, the guy will usually think, if I do 5 or 6 or 7, it doesn't matter, because unless it's a 10, I am not going to be appreciated. So why do anything at all, because I know right now I cannot reach to 10. You see the conundrum? That is why sometimes the guy will give in and then they will pull back. So the more that he started to work on himself and the more that he started to work on his patterns, he could recognize that how much of his behavior was coming from there. But he also could recognize that in some situations this girl has to actually appreciate him and do all these things. He eventually didn't chase anything. He didn't text her, he didn't call her, he didn't do anything. First we worked on forgiveness, then we worked on his patterns of masculinity, then we started to work on his self punishment. Now what is self punishment? He was constantly punishing himself for things that he thought he had done. His mom struggling with his father, his girlfriend not feeling happy all the time, because he had made it his task, right? That I want my girlfriend to be happy all the time, I want to be the one to do that. But he also has to recognize that she's also a human being who will have to take care of her emotions on her own, and he can support her but not enable her. So he also had to stop the enabling. In truth, the more that he worked on himself without doing any specific person affirmations at all, just by this change, he was able to inspire this woman to change. After 2 months of not talking, no contact, nothing, of when we were talking. So before that, when he came to me, he was already in a breakup for 2 months and he had already changed. I'm talking about 2 months from there. After 2 months of no contact, nothing happening, this girl reached out to him. She told him that, hey, I miss you, I really think about you all the time. And this was just the start. Eventually they started meeting, they started talking, and this time his change was not fake. His change was not just to get her back. His change was because he wanted to change. And the more he changed, the more she got inspired. And I'm happy to inform you that they are now in a healthy, committed relationship with each other. And I'm going to give you some good news soon. So they are going to actually now, like the relationship is going better now and everything is going in the direction. His patterns are still working. We are still working together. We are still connecting on a regular basis. We are still reinforcing our new beliefs because he's still new at them. Because for a very long time in his life, X had been struggling with these beliefs. But now that he's working on them, he's experiencing better relationships. Now that is where the question for you comes. Would you rather work on your beliefs now for a longer period of time and then achieve sustainable results? Or would you have short term results from short term work that you do just to lose it all over again? Something to think about. So I will see you guys in the next video. I hope that you enjoyed the success story from a no contact situation to a happy, fulfilling, committed relationship to now getting engaged soon. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this story and hope you have a good day.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and share if you liked the video. The link for my one-on-one coaching, my self-help courses, and my free newsletter are in the description box below.